ஆண்டவராகிய இயேசு கிறிஸ்துவின் நாமத்திலே இந்த கிங்டம் பீப்புள் ப்ரோக்ராமை பார்க்கிற உங்களுக்கு ஒவ்வொருவருக்கும் எங்களுடைய வாழ்த்துக்கள். இந்த நாளில வருகை தந்து பேட்டி காணும்படிக்கு வந்திருக்கிற சகோதரன் பிரதர் பால், அவரை ஆண்டவராகிய இயேசு கிறிஸ்துவின் நாமத்திலே நாங்கள் வாழ்த்துகிறோம். மிக்க நன்றி என்று சொல்றோம். Thank you so much for taking your time off, you and your dear wife. It's such a joy that you could come here as a couple and to say what the Lord has done in and through your life. இப்போ அங்க நீங்க உட்கார்ந்து பார்க்கிறவர் தேவன் அவரை கொண்டு லிட்டில் டிராப்ஸ் என்ற ஒரு ஓல்ட் ஏஜ் ஹோமை ஆரம்பிக்க அவரை பயன்படுத்தி இருக்கிறார். சில காரியங்களே அவரிடத்துல நாங்க கேட்க போறோம். அண்ட் the first question அவரிடத்துல நாங்க கேட்கணும்னு விரும்புறது, உங்களை பற்றி ஒரு சில காரியங்களை நீங்க சொல்ல முடியுமா?
என்னோட பேர் இஜே பால். நான் ஒரு கிறிஸ்துவ குடும்பத்தில் பிறந்தேன். நாங்கள் 7 பேர். 1971 என்னோட தகப்பன் ஸ்கூட்டர் ஆக்சிடென்ட் இறந்து போயிட்டார். அவங்க இறந்து போகும்போது அம்மாவுக்கும் வேலை இல்லை. நாங்கள் எல்லாரும் ஸ்கூலில் 7 பேரும் ஸ்கூலில் இருந்தோம். அப்புறம் கஷ்டப்பட்டு படித்து ஸ்கூலிங் முடித்த உடனே சீக்கிரமாக வேலை கிடைக்கிறதுக்காக ஒரு டிப்ளமா கோர்ஸ் சேர்ந்தேன். டிப்ளமா கோர்ஸ் படித்து முடித்த உடனே ஒரு சிறு வேலை கிடைச்சது பிரிட்டானியா இண்டஸ்ட்ரி. அந்த வேலையை செஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கும்போது இந்தியன் ஏர்லைன்ஸில் ஏர்போர்ட்டில் எனக்கு ஒரு வேலை கிடைச்சது. 1980 இந்தியன் ஏர்லைன்ஸ் சேர்ந்தேன். 2003 விஆர்எஸ் எடுத்து ஃபுல் டைமாக இப்போ நான் இருக்கிற அந்த லிட்டில் டிராப்ஸ் ஆர்கனைசேஷனில் தொடர்ந்து பணி செய்துருக்கேன்.
So, how did you say you're from a Christian background. So, how did you know the Lord Jesus Christ as your personal savior?
Actually, when I was studying in the school, it's a Christian school. After my father's death, we went through a major financial crisis. In fact, those days the bus fare was only 10 paisa. But we didn't even have the 10 paisa. My mother couldn't give me the 10 paisa to go by bus. So I used to walk to school, about 5 kilometers one way, walk back 5 kilometers. And not only that, I couldn't afford to have lunch in the canteen, which many of my classmates could. And it all started with questioning God, because here were my friends used to come by car. And they used to wear very beautiful shirts, uniform, and I used to wear crumpled shirts and torn shorts. So I used to ask God, why is this disparity? Why is it that some people are chosen to live life so comfortably, while I trekked back home? And then life went on like that, and I used to attend the chapel in ACC school, and I used to be God-fearing. Until 1977, when I'd gone for a camp. In fact, I was forced into the camp by a friend of mine. And there, God spoke to me. I gave my life to Christ in 1977. And there I told the Lord, when I grow up, I was 18 years old then, I told the Lord, when I grow up, use me to be a blessing amongst poor people. And it's such a short prayer and then a few words. And so 77, after I gave my life to Christ, everything, my perspective, my priorities, everything changed. So, and then in 1979, I finished my diploma. 80, I joined Indian Airlines. 87, I got married. Okay. And 91, we launched Little Drops with a childhood film. Okay. So it was a question that brought Christ into my life.
When you prayed that prayer as a youngster, direct away you seem to have had a burden for old people.
Yeah, it's more to do with what I went through. So I could identify with people with greater needs. Okay. For example, I still remember those days when I used to ask God. There was a big earthquake in Mexico. Okay. And there were pictures of people under rubble, huge boulders, they were under that. Then I told myself, I'm better off than them. And that's when I realized that people with greater need, and that's when, I could be grateful for some of the things I still had, though I didn't have some of the things that my classmates had.
You were in school at this time?
At school, yeah.
Okay. What were some of the key events that brought burden into your life or led you to do the ministry that you're doing? Can you think of anything like that?
No, it's been a process. See, what used to happen is, initially, as I told you, it's a discrimination.
Right.
Like for example, a teacher in class, he would talk to a doctor's son or an architect's son or an engineer's son. So it's a discrimination which hurt me. And then, of course, whenever we turned up for get-togethers, functions, I always found myself in a corner. And in my entire schooling, I never got onto the stage for either with good marks or for any particular ability as such. And so I was an underdog all through life.
Okay.
So, and then when Christ came in, suddenly I found that identity that I needed for life.
Right. Yes.
That identity because I could still serve somebody with whatever I had, and here's one person who's willing to accept me, use me,
Right.
to play a role for His kingdom. Though I had nothing in terms of a particular talent or money or looks or a family or education for that matter, because all that I boast of even today is only my diploma in mechanical engineering. In fact, there's so little I know about mechanical engineering today.
Okay.
It is amazing. ஆண்டவர் வந்து ஒரு மனுஷனை பயன்படுத்தணும்னா he does not look at the background of what you have. That நம்ம எப்படியோ அவர் கையில கொடுக்கும்போது நம்மளை கொண்டு அவரு சில காரியங்களை செய்யறாரு. இப்போ இந்த லிட்டில் டிராப்ஸ்ங்கிற அந்த ஆர்கனைசேஷன் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணீங்க, அது எப்படி ஆரம்பிச்சீங்க? What was the motivating factor for you to start this in 1991? And another question is, why did you name it as Little Drops?
Okay. Actually, I got into Indian Airlines in 1980, and then again angenna pathana again affluence, the rich people flying, and powerful people with a lot of status and power, and there again I saw a different crowd flying. And then along with a childhood friend of mine, we were discussing about life, and he was actually at the same camp with me. He also gave his life. We were neighbors also. So then we got talking, and then we decided that it's time we got together to do something for the Lord. So initially, we went and met a chartered accountant, as was told by a friend, and he said, "What's the name of the organization?" He said, "We don't know, but we want to fulfill the legal obligations to start off this work." So he said, "What do you want to do?" So he said, "We just want to help poor people." Then he gave us a lecture on how we need to be specific, we need to have a name, letterpad. So he gave us a big lecture because he is a chartered accountant dealing with several NGOs. So that's when we got back home and started thinking. And I used to read books on Mother Teresa. And in one particular quote, which I read, sort of stayed on my mind. And that's about little drops making a mighty ocean. That was said by some English poet. And Mother Teresa goes on to say how the ocean will be poorer by the missing little drops. So the ocean may be huge, but if it's one or two drops are not there, the ocean becomes poorer by the missing little drops. So the name was taken from that, Little Drops, and we registered Little Drops as a public charitable trust in 1991, and we had 500 rupees when we started our journey. 500 rupees and a big dream, and so that's how we began.
Can you describe the dream that you had at that time?
It was a what should I say, a big thirst to like meet people in their hour of need and the suffering, and be of some help. And then we realized what we needed to do was we needed to find a home where we could take them to. And unfortunately, there was nobody willing to give us a piece of land. I mean, their house for rent. So we finally had to settle for a plot of land which was gifted by my friend, Mrs. Selvaraj. And on the plot of land, we put up a small hut. And then there we started the campaign. And that's what this piece of land is about 4 kilometers beyond Porur, where we have the present home.
Okay.
I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, the dream was to help people at the point of need.
Yes.
But brother, as you normally when somebody sees a need, to do a one-time help is what many people will be willing to do, because it does not bring any responsibility along with it. You just do something, you make your conscience feel good, and you go on with life. But what you are talking about is to take on the responsibility of somebody at the point of need, and at times that demands a longer relationship and a longer responsibility. They become a kind of an extended family to you. So, did this not cause you to stagger when you thought of the responsibility involved?
That is, to just add on to his question, you deal with Little Drops is an old age home.
Yes.
Okay. So you bring in old people inside who, okay.
Though Little Drops, like it's a home for elderly destitutes, we pick up any destitute. See, what we believe is in such a big country, nobody should be abandoned, and nobody need to die on the road. So what we do is, when we see somebody, they need not be old. It's enough if they're a destitute to qualify to be in Little Drops. And one of the conditions is that they should not own any wealth, and that they should not own anybody. But there are cases where we find people who have been thrown out by their own sons or sons-in-law or daughters-in-law. Yes. So we do accept them also. And then over a period of time, they enjoy the love of Christ and they become a part of us. In fact, there's one lady I was talking to day before yesterday. She's been with us for 20 years now. And I had forgotten it. So she told me, I came in as a Hindu, and within 3 months I'd taken baptism. I don't know if you remember. And then she said, I'm so happy in the Lord. I'm waiting to be, called. So in fact, I mean, though we, in the midst of the schedule that we have, I've forgotten. Her name is Valyamal. I've forgotten about her admission date, but she recalled and she told me, and it was very, very exciting for me to know that she's getting ready, and she wants to meet.
You set up this shelter house in this plot of land which your friend had given, brother. How did your journey start? Who was your first person whom you brought in?
Yeah.
And
after we put up the hut, what happened was we realized that we needed to have a toilet.
Right.
We needed to have a few cots. So we mentally not prepared for that. We because in our anxiety or in our enthusiasm to reach out to people in need, we missed out on some of the basics that they needed. But what happened was with a little help from a contractor those days, we started off a small work on a small building. So, and then money used to come trickling in, or 200 rupees, 500 rupees. I'm talking about 92, 93. And then we slowly, by 93 beginning, we had made a small shelter which could accommodate 10 people. And when we were ready, we were not in fact fully ready. I had a call from a friend in Roypuram to say about a man who needed help. He was on the road. He had known about our work. And then we went all the way to Roypuram. And it's a totally different experience because we reached there and then we realized we needed a vehicle. We were on a bike. Then we called auto rickshaw guys. They're not willing to come because this man had sores all over his body. And then we brought him home that night around 9:30 or so. And I still remember me, Pradeep, and Selvaraj was three of us giving him a bath in the dark because we didn't have light. Those days, electricity connection coming. So we gave him a bath. We scrubbing his wounds, and we had no gloves and no lights, and we just had a small piece of soap. And then he stayed. In fact, he lived only for 2 days, and then he died. And his name is Rahim, as I told you. And during his stay, he sort of spoke a few words. He was our first inmate. He spoke a few words and he gave us his address. It was some address in Andhra Pradesh. So what we did was we immediately posted a card to his son. And then this man died. After he died, we suddenly realized this work needs a burial ground.
Yes.
And he died at 2. And then we went around requesting all the churches for a place in the cemetery. And in fact, 6 churches we went to. It was already dark, 6 o'clock. All of them refused. And this man had to be buried. So what we did was, and we didn't have a transport to take him to, whichever burial ground it was. Finally, one pastor told us that in Mangadu there's one Porumboku land. Said there you could bury him, but it's illegal, but you can go ahead and do it. And then by the time we had arranged a couple of workers for digging, they had also left. So it was left to me, Pradeep and Selvaraj to dig the grave. At 8 o'clock we started digging, we finished at 10 o'clock and finally got hold of a jatka, a horse cart. We put the body, we made a simple coffin made with like wood that we could pick up, scrap from here and there, put Mr. Rahim in, and took him on this journey to bury him. And we finished at 11:30 in the night. That's the first funeral we did.
And you were working simultaneously, holding a full-time job.
Yes. Incidentally, the day Mr. Rahim died, I was on night duty. So after I finished the funeral, only then I could call up my manager and tell him, sir, sorry, at 8:30 my night shift starts. So I still remember calling his name, Mr. Mahadevan. I called him up to say, sorry sir, I had a funeral to do, that's why I'm delayed. He said, this hour you had a funeral? I said, yes. But he was so nice. He said, you can even come and join duty.
Okay.
So 8:30 duty at 11:30 night. Of course I didn't go. So what I was trying to say is that people around us helped us in small ways, made it happen.
Rightfully, if every child looked after their parents, we wouldn't have an old age home as such, no? And so it's a great work that they are able to find some security and protection in the places, where you bring them over. But when they come over, since you're saying that it will be a son throwing out the mother or father or a daughter-in-law throwing out whatever, they come with a lot of emotional baggage, isn't it? How do you handle them?
See, what we do is once they come in, we tell them this is your family.
Okay.
And then what we do is we have regular prayer in our home. We have prayer in the evening every day at 6 o'clock. Then we have fasting and prayer on Saturdays. Then we have Sunday worship. And then we have staff prayer midweek. And they are encouraged to be a part of this prayer. We don't force them. And what I've seen, the miracle that I've seen is everybody loves to be loved.
Yes.
And when they enjoy that love, security follows. And when they feel secure, they're able to think. And when they think, they join us. And when after they join us, we have a beautiful time. In fact, in most songs, I'm not a good singer. Selvaraj is not a good singer. And so what happens is we don't sing to the tune. Somebody heard us from outside, they wonder what's going on inside. But it didn't matter to us. So we'll sing and pray with him. And they are a part of us. They're a part of the Little Drops family. And initially, yes, they do spend a lot of time in tears.
Yes, they'll be very broken.
Some of them don't eat.
Okay.
Some of them don't like the people on the neighboring court. And some of them have had a good lifestyle. Sometimes they have to live with a man or a woman whose, like hygiene levels are not that good. So, but then over a period of time, they see that we are one big family, and they somehow, find their slot and live. So initially, it's without choice, and over a period of time, it's something they love.
I love the phrase which you used. Everybody loves to be loved, and when they are loved, they are secure. Yeah. That's a very beautiful, phrase. So once they come in and then they understand you and then they begin to adapt to the surroundings, you find a lot of change in their lives. Now, the question that I wanted to ask you is, the kind of work that you do demands a lot of time from you. It also demands, there's a lot of emotional needs that have to be met. So it'll definitely, suck a lot of. It'll drain you emotionally. To be more accurate, it'll drain you more emotionally and physically, spiritually. Now, how does your wife and your children cope with this? Because it's definitely going to, since it's demanding so much from you, how are you able to maintain a balance with your wife and the children?
Me and Sheila met and then got married. So there's a time, say about, I think, more than 9 months or more than a year. So we spent a lot of time talking about, like all couples would, about the future, what to do, what not to do. And I remember telling her a lot of things, many occasions about how we need to keep life simple so that we'll have enough to share with people around us. And one of the reasons why I liked her, first place, was her simplicity. And that's what struck me about her most. And so we had spoken out that part, but then when it comes to living, as you said, it's quite demanding. But she's adjusted all along, and to the extent that now she's become a part of the very work that we are into. And I must tell you about one incident that took place when we were taking a walk one evening near Kilpop Medical Hospital on the pavement. It was raining one evening around 7 o'clock. And we were waiting under a bus stand. And under the bus stand, there was a small mound. And there's a paper on top of it. And suddenly I found the paper moving. And I knew there's something under it, and I'm not too sure what it was. So I got down and looked, and I saw one lady, she was sort of trembling inside. And then I lifted the paper and saw one lady without limbs. And she was getting wet in the rain. And so we didn't know what to do. And suddenly her immediate reaction was one of fear. She sort of ailed a bit, and she thought, because what was happening in her life, which I later came to know later, was, these boys who were passing that way would throw things, and she would get up with a jolt and abuse them, and that's what I heard. So then what I did was, she was very, very, very dirty, and when I lifted the sheet further, the paper further, cockroaches running around. She had a small, vessel. And then I realized we're in front of the hospital. So I went inside and took a wheelchair, took this lady into the ward. And I told
Which hospital was this?
Kilpop Medical Hospital. just on Purmalai Road. And I took this lady inside, and I told those doctors, please take care of this lady. But the moment they saw, they said, sorry, this lady's been in and out many times. We cannot keep her. Now the reason is this: because she didn't have limbs, she couldn't go to the toilet, and she'd soil the place wherever she was. And there's nobody willing to wash her and clean her up. So that was the reason why they put her out. So she had to be. We admitted her, and then we came to next day when I went to see. She was again on the road. So what I did was I gave some money to the shop. By then we didn't have a home then, and I gave some money to the shopkeeper close by and told him to buy her at least serve her 3 meals. I find a place for her. And when I went 2 days after that, I found she was missing. I do not know if she died or if she went to some other spot, spend the rest of her life. But incidents like these, brought us.
Yes.
We were more focused on the type of work that we were going to get into. Like you said, it is very, very, very demanding. But then, God's love constrains you. You cannot but do it. So, that's what has happened in our lives. It's not that we are special or we have gone through a training, nothing like that. But then it's love sort of compels you to do what you do.
You described how the ministry started, how Mr. Rahim was the first person who came in. After that, which year was it, brother? And after that, what is the way in which God has developed this ministry to be a help to people?
So in 1993 was the time Rahim came in.
Yes. Okay.
And 1993, in fact, we had a very, very special guest into our home. I must mention that. That's none other than Mother Teresa herself.
Okay.
So, Mother Teresa, I used to read about her. And then when I knew that she was coming into the city, that's another big story by itself. Because I used to work at the airport, I somehow managed to contact her and speak to her and sort of request her to come to our home, which she did in 93. And then after that, we took a few people from Missionaries of Charity, that's Mother Teresa's home. And then we spread word amongst our friends. Only word. No, nothing in the newspapers, nothing in the magazines. We just spread word. And slowly people came to know about a shelter like this. So they would call in and give us details of somebody on the road or somebody under a staircase in their own homes. So what we used to do is we used to go there, do a home study, go to the streets, inform the local police station, get a memo made in our name, and then pick them up. And to God's glory, this has been going on ever since we started in 1990 till today. And what used to happen is the need is so huge. We always ran short of space. We had a dorm for 20 people that used to be filled. Then they used to come to the veranda. Then, if we have friends who came to visit, we would ask them to make another floor for us on top. So some would give cement, some would give steel, bricks. So like that we finish one more floor. And then in no time that also gets filled. So I'm on a a permanent, begging spree, if I may call it. It's not really begging, always asking people. But what is wonderful is, like in the history of Little Drops, that like to share here, is that we've not taken in people because of space. We've taken people because they had a need. So because it was their need that drove us to find space. And we were not bringing in somebody because of space available. So that's a lesson we learned young, and we're true to that even today. That's why this home has today become a home for 650 people.
Of old people, destitutes?
Yeah, destitutes. We have more than 80 people who are bedridden, always in bed. And so I'm just telling you because normally the practice is to create space and then take in. So you'll always find our verandas full, our cots coming closer during rainy seasons. And then we've had more than 2,500 deaths so far. 2,500 people have died. So some of them come in and die within 5 minutes. Some of them come dying and they lived on for 12 years, 13 years. So we've had a lot of miracles, people who have been laying or walking. So many people who come with maggot wounds, fractures, had their legs amputated. They got artificial legs, and today they are helping us take care of those who are sick, who come in sick. So, a lot of miracles, and I can go on and on.
I know.
In a situation like this, when you see somebody thrown out, brother, and they are sick, sometimes the sickness can be infectious, it can be maybe HIV, AIDS and such. Do you have any inmates who probably have dangerous diseases? How do you handle them, or do you have a doctor to check whether they are sick that way? Or
See, what we do is, like I'm reminded of what Mother Teresa said. In one of the quotes that I read, she says, when I see a man in need, to me that man is Christ. And we are the only two existing in the world at that point of time. And you won't believe it, I've recalled this so many times in my life, because it's impossible to get close to some people, like you say, with stench. And stench of a rotten wound with maggots. Yesterday we picked up a lady, over 1,000 maggots came out. In about a couple of minutes, our nurses are cleaning the wound. They're all jumping out. So immediately what we do is we call what my Mother Teresa said, that lady is Christ. So that alone helps us in this work, because it's humanly impossible to go on, Another thing we deliberately avoid, doctors don't agree with us, is we've not gone in to check the disease of the elders, except for the ones that is needed to diagnose and treat them. Because what we realize is, for example, TB, we do have a check. We do their TB, the X-rays and the sputum checks we do, and then treat them. But things like AIDS or other diseases, of course, a lot of precautions. We have gloves these days, and we have forceps, and we've taken precautions for that. But we deliberately avoided doing AIDS test, because what happens is, once AIDS is a patient is diagnosed, then the stigma, and then it's sort of estranged.
They put aside.
Yeah. So we do not want to do that, because he also needs to be done. And to tell you one truth today, we have one man with leprosy who's got oozing finger. We're not able to find a home for him. Leprosy homes are full. They don't take him in, but he's in a home. We're taking care to see that other inmates don't notice his hands. So his bandage is a little bigger than usual. Because if you do the right bandage, they may see his truncated fingers. So what we basically do is, though we try our best to isolate the infectious people and all that, sometimes it's not possible, because we have dorms for women, we have dorms for men, we have dorms for the bedridden, and this combination doesn't really help us segregate them. And if further segregation, we leave them alone. So it may be better off being on the road, seeing a few passers-by, than be segregated in one room. So these are very hard facts of life, but we need to accept it. And we pray and go in, and like Father Damien, willing to one day say, become one with you. I don't know when.
Now, how do you have volunteers who come and look after the people who are sick, or how do you look after that many people who are, not keeping physically well? Do you hire nurses and doctors? And then again, that'll be pretty costly to raise up finances to support them. How do you manage this?
We have a wonderful team of staff. All of them are
How
paid.
many of them work?
In total, we may be about 60 to 70 people, maybe 80. That's in all shelters put together. And all of them are paid. But the beauty is that not one of them has come through an advertisement. They've all come in with their own problems in life, with their needs, and it's been a sort of rehabilitation for them, this work, except for one or two project coordinators who we recently got. Otherwise, all of them have come with their own problems. Many of them are deserted women, young widows. Many of them, like whose husbands are drunkards. So they sort of come into with their own problems in life, with their own needs, with their desperation, and found somebody with a greater need, and together blending so beautifully to serve one another.
Okay.
And so much so there are staff who miss that that elder in the dorm, particular dorm, that they come even on the off day to talk. So there's been a relationship. But this is not to say that everything is smooth all the time. We have a lot of quarrels, we have a lot of misunderstandings. No. But then we believe it's, as human beings, it's only to be expected.
Has it been mentally draining for you?
No, it's never been.
Never been. That's wonderful. Praise
it's
God.
never been draining. Like I'd like to do it all over again if I have to. I'm much younger. In fact, so when we talk to our children, we tell them about.
Yeah, since you talk about your children, tell us a little about your children. How do they feel? Okay, it's been such a joy to have the testimony of your wife supporting you so much, and it's amazing that Sheila could back you up so much. That's why you could do what you did. But then the kids, have they at any point in time felt, we are losing out on many things because dad is spending more time there? Have they?
I don't know. Maybe they do have a thought like that in them. But then when they compare, my time there and time with them, as they grow, they're also evolving. So I believe they've understood that I've not been in the wrong place.
Probably they might be very, very proud of you too.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, but then I must say this, when we took VRS in 2003, both our children were in school.
Okay.
And many of our friends warned us about getting out of an airlines job. And getting into serve, and one day running into a dire situation and regretting. But what we did was we spoke to our children, and they've been very, very understanding. We've and they may have missed out on some of the materialistic things, but in terms of joy, peace, and the love
and the reward of seeing what's happening.
So we've not missed out on much at all. I don't think so. And of course, we do try and spend time together. This process. And now, of course, they're passed out and they're working. And I see in them that their lives are also dedicated to people in need around them. Because I believe God's work must find God's people.
Yes.
So not necessarily their children.
Yes.
So they're free to choose their work. But our wish for them is that they serve the Lord somewhere in this world.
What are their names and what do they do?
Praveen works for a company in Hyderabad.
Okay.
And Veena is a counselor in the school.
Okay, wonderful.
You were holding an airlines job and you were self-sufficient. Now, when you start to care for others, then obviously there have to be others who have to come in and shoulder the burden with you, the financial burden. So, you were just mentioning some time back that the work is growing in such a way that you're constantly needing to raise support for it. What are some things that have encouraged you? What are some things that have discouraged you in this, brother?
In the course of
this work, in terms of raising like-minded people to partner with you and to support the work and things like that.
Yeah, there have been times when there's been a dearth of people to support you. That is true. Yeah. But I won't say the same thing about funds.
Okay.
Of course, we have some fundraising campaigns going on throughout the year.
Yes.
But what I've realized is that funds must follow the work.
Right.
It's not the other way around.
Yes.
Because the normal belief is, now how much money do you have to do to help somebody?
Yes.
But actually, what I've understood in this work is that you need to identify another man's problem, his need, and his situation. And then I've realized the funds, God talks to somebody, and the funds are just waiting to roll into our account. And when I say this, not that we have a huge surplus, and we.
But you found God's
Yes,
faithfulness
correct.
and provision.
Yes. So what is the funds of coming? But where we were really struggling is, like you said, like-minded Christian friends
Yes.
who could lend a hand in this work. So there, of course, we've from time to time realized it would be wonderful to have more Christians joining us to reach out to more people and to improve the quality of life of those with us. Because ultimately we want them, we don't want this place to become a waiting place for death.
Right.
It must become a place where
Life and
they
open.
enjoy God's
Yes.
love and abundance, and becomes life has to become meaningful. Purposeful.
Yes.
Even in their old age, even with their disabilities, they must still enjoy life,
Yes.
which Christ can do.
This far, you were recounting all that God has been doing and starting from one person to bringing up to this level, and it's been 20 years. Now, what are the current projects that you have, been involved in?
Basically, the work is the same. In fact, we want to share God's love with all those, who have no one to call their own. So the course of this work, we have shelters for age destitutes, and then we have about 4 homes for age destitutes, and then we have 3 schools, in fact, connected to all these old age homes. And these schools cater to the poor children in those respective villages.
What's the school called?
Little Angels.
Okay.
Little Angels. We cater up to 5th standard, and from LKG to 5th standard. So they cater to the poor. We give a subsidy on books, uniform. Many of them given free education.
How many years since you started this?
One school is about 13 years old or 15 years old. The other schools are about 8 and 5. And together we have a strength of about 1,200 or so in the schools. And the schools were started actually to to give education to the people in the village and give them the message, the gospel. And our staff children also study in the schools. They study free. And apart from that, we have a vocational center, rehabilitation center, where we teach them tailoring and embroidery, again for the local women who the battered women, as they call it, so who do not know how to continue life, either because of death of husband or they've been deserted. So we teach them the skill and they find jobs. In fact, we have had about 30 batches of 25 passing out over the last 10-12 years. Then apart from that, we have a children's home in Manipur that's bordering Burma, where we have 72 children, children of single parents and total orphans. Because Manipur, we know very little about Manipur. The people in South. But to tell you a little bit about Manipur is, in fact, this particular district is the most backward district of the whole country. It's called Chandir district. And there's a lot of militants issue, the drug addicts, a lot of AIDS patients. So many of them die young. And children don't go to school because it's a little hilly, and schools are 5-6 kilometers, or even some villages are even 15 kilometers away. So what we've done is we brought them all together in one place, and we give them food, clothing, and shelter. They go to a school. They're excellent singers. So Manipur is a children's home. And apart from that, we have a unit called Trash and Treasure, where it's a self-sustaining program where we pick up used and usable articles from homes and then put it on sale. The proceeds from that sale is used for our medical expenditure. And one project is on Bangalore, where we just finished the roofing work, because we get a lot of inquiries from Bangalore about people on the road. So through a help of another friend, we identified land, construction is in progress. Maybe by Christmas we should be ready.
Where is it?
It's on the way to the airport, on the way to Bangalore airport. And then the other burden as a child that I had was to do something for people of Africa. So what happened was, along with like-minded friends about 7-8 years ago, since me and Sheila worked in Indian Airlines, we are entitled to free tickets on Air India. So somehow managed to motivate another group of people. So we all flew into Kenya, Nairobi, and then visited several shelters like ours, old age homes, and shelters for the abused girls and things like that, and orphanages. And then the need is so huge that I spoke to Indian families there, came back here, spoke to our friends. Some of them sold their gold, some of them sold, took out their savings, and we bought a piece of land. In fact, we made a small shelter there, and from June 1st, 16 orphans have been taken. Yeah, so 16 orphans lived there, and one Indian family in Nairobi is coordinating and taking care of them. So that's a current work.
Since you have so many friends who stand shoulder to shoulder with you, it is indeed a joy to see them, brother. But when you see the whole body of Christ as a whole, the burden that you have in your heart is something which God has in His heart also. Because when we see the Bible, we see that God is a God whose heart is always out for the destitute, for the alien, the fatherless, the widow. He is always, God's heart beats that way. So, but is there any concern that you have when you look at Christianity as it's being practiced now? Is there anything you can tell that could put perspective on this?
See, I believe Christ died on the cross, demonstrating love for mankind, and I believe everybody who claims to have been cleansed by His blood owes it to Him to demonstrate that love. Because if we say Christ lives in us, the only way to show that Christ lives in us is by showing that love that He showed for us on Calvary in a small way. So I believe Christians must talk less and get down to action. And when I say action, I'm talking about physical work, because I believe it's very easy to preach, very easy to come together as a group of friends in fellowship and in prayer or Bible reading or singing, whatever we do, because ultimately all these must lead to something beautiful for Christ in another life, another person's life. And we live in a world, and especially in a country where there's so much of poverty. Poverty, not only physical, I'm not talking about food and the basics, but poverty of the heart, the soul. And so the best way, in my opinion, would be to reveal Christ, through actions. So I'd be happy to see everybody putting down their mics for a while and picking up,
shovels,
like maybe a wheelchair or a stretcher or a walking stick, and let somebody walk. There's so many of them groping. So, of course, we are supported only by the Word. We are supported only by what we hear from the Word of God. But I believe none of these can be an end by itself. It should only be a beginning. It should spur us on to becoming that role model that youngsters want to see. So today's youngster, when they talk about ministry, they're only thinking of either preaching or singing or playing music. But I believe they must get down to the real action, and that means demonstrating His love and sharing, caring, small ways, big ways, whatever way. But somehow, Christ must be seen beyond words.
That is what you're saying is, if we say we love God, it has, and it has to show in our actions.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, since we are going to come to the end, how would, if people would like to contact you, how would they be able to connect with you? You'll be able to say, your phone number.
Ideal way would be my mobile.
Okay.
And because I'm not, the last thing I use in life is a computer.
Okay.
So though we have an email ID.
Okay. So why don't you share your phone number?
My phone number would be 988 4080 864.
Okay.
I'll repeat it. 988 4080 864.
Okay.
You could use this number to tell us if there are people who need help.
Okay.
Somebody who does not know what to do next, where to go, how to live life. It could be an old man, it could be a total destitute, it could be a woman with a child or children. You please feel free to call us. I may not be able to take in all of them, but then I definitely can refer them with a temporary accommodation and little drops. We can refer them to places where they'll be, taken care of. So, and if we can have a network of people who, all can come together, I think that prayer which we say, that kingdom come, that'll happen faster.
Okay.
Brother, since you have quite a lot that you have experienced in life, and there is much you have understood of God through all the work you have done, is there anything that you would like to tell our viewers in closing?
I believe we are all born with a purpose, and I believe it'll be very, very sad to go back to the Lord without fulfilling the purpose for which He called us, He gave us birth. Because as me and Sheila pray, every day is a gift from God, and what we do for Him is a gift to Him. So, and I believe every Christian, when I say Christian, everybody whose sins have been forgiven, who's enjoyed God's presence, I believe God has a set of people who has to be touched only by this particular individual. And if this individual shirks, then that many people are left lonely, are left, they don't have an identity. So our job will be to tell them that you are precious. You may be lame, you may be blind, you may be dark, you may be short, you may not be educated, but God loves you as you are. And then, you give them an identity in Christ, and it happens so easily. Because for Christ to enter, it's just you just put your arms around that person and tell them that you are a part of this world, and God has made you with a purpose. So I like to see all of us combining in our imperfection with the strength that He's given us to touch lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless.
Dear friends, you have been listening to a very, very inspiring account of what God can do in the life of someone who can take time to listen and have the courage to respond. The question that is left with you this time is, you have a role to fulfill for the kingdom. And that role includes not just spiritual responsibility for others, it also includes responsibilities in some way in doing something about the needy in our land, for this is our land, and we are all in some way responsible for the people of our land. They are our people. So this day, if you would allow God to speak to you, maybe He will tell you what your role is in all this. Thank you so much. May God bless you.
Kingdom people, ask your Father to mold and bake you as He wills. kingdom people, you are pilgrims for